that Tuesday's tragedy is not over. The shock waves will reverberate across this community in countless ways for countless weeks and months and years. The raw grief among the residents here is, of course, no less than it was on Tuesday, but increasingly the sadness is mingled with some frustration and some anger as people here have been unable to get straight answers about what exactly happened here, as people learned that the shooter was in this school for over an hour before he was shot and killed by law enforcement, and as new videos raise questions about how parents were treated by authorities as the massacre unfolded. Now, in the aftermath of any horrific event, information is spotty. Our understanding of what happened evolves over time. But even by those standards of breaking and developing news, the inability of officials here to give a consistent and coherent account of a key portion of the timeline of the attack is frankly confounding. Initial reports suggested that when the shooter approached the school, an armed resource officer, a school resource officer, exchanged fire with him, but the gunman was able to get past him and into the school. Then yesterday, the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety said at a briefing that the school resource officer had, quote, engaged the shooter in some way, but not fired his weapon, and the shooter then entered the school. That was a little hard to understand. Today, a different official with the Department of Public Safety told the Washington Post that they were not sure if the officer had shot the gunman, but they were going to interview the officer to find out. Just an hour after that report, a third DPS official held a news conference laying out the timeline, and at the very end, almost as an aside, this is what he said.
One more thing I forgot to mention that I want to clear up that came out early on. It was reported that a school district police officer confronted the suspect that was making entry. Not accurate.
Tom Llamas with NBC News. My question is this: was there a school officer on campus, and was that school officer armed? Because that's what we've been told.
So at this time, no. No, there was not an officer readily available armed. No.
Was there an officer?
No, nothing. I can't answer that yet. I'll circle back with you. Again, as we do that investigation, we have all these questions we want to answer, but I'll get back with you, sir.
There was no officer at all, or maybe he's not sure. Who are they interviewing then? This press conference this afternoon, it didn't get better from there.
There's a 12-minute gap from when he crashes his truck to when he enters the school. 12 minutes. What happened in that 12 minutes?
So you got to understand, 11:30 is the information we have at this point that we can confirm. 11:30 a.m. the PD gets we got a crash and a man with a gun. And then you have responding officers. That's what it is. If it's 12 minutes from 11:30 to 11:40, that's the information we have right now. Look, at the end of the day, our job is to report the facts and have those answers. We're not there yet.
Well, we don't have the answers, and it does seem important. He ended the press conference shortly thereafter, once it became clear that he didn't have answers for these reporters' questions. Now, let's just be clear. No one expects officials to have all the details nailed down quickly. This is important stuff. But there's this worrying lack of clarity around a central question about this attack. We're told the gunman crashed his car outside the school at 11:28 a.m. on Tuesday. We're told he entered the school at 11:40 a.m. And then it was less than at least an hour, maybe closer to an hour and a half, before a tactical team, this team that you're looking at from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, broke into the classroom where the gunman had murdered 21 people, and they shot and killed him. Today, new videos have emerged showing parents gathered outside the school during that agonizing period, arguing with police who were stationed outside, begging them to go into the school to stop the shooter. And I'm going to show you a couple of these videos, but I want to be clear. about what we do not know here. We do not know the original source of this video. NBC has been able to verify through our technology that it was shot outside of Robb Elementary School here on Tuesday. But we don't know what time the video was shot and what else was going on at the time. The parents in this video are questioning why law enforcement officers are not going into the school, but we don't know if other police officers were in fact already inside the school at that time. And I'm going to warn you, the footage is not graphic, but it's deeply emotional. So take care while watching. As the video begins, it seems that the person filming it has just seen a law enforcement officer shove someone who appears to be a parent.
Man, y'all can't be like that, man. Y'all can't be like that when there's people.
Yes, I do. Get across the street. Because I'm having to deal with you. Get across the street. Get across the street. We have other stuff to do.
We're going to back up or you're going to walk into that gate and get him.
You gotta get fighting with us. Go get fighting with them.
Someone that has the rifle here.
You know that they're kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
Take his out.
6-year-old kids in there. They don't know how to defend themselves from a shooter.
All right, there's another video. It was shot outside the school as the shooting was underway. In the video, which you're going to see in a moment, we appear to see what appear to be law enforcement officers restraining a man on the ground outside the school. Another officer has his taser clearly drawn and visible. This is in a crowd of parents who are screaming as they learn that a gunman is in the school with their children and who are begging the heavily armed officers around them to go into the school. Now, again, we do not have the full context for these videos. We don't know who was in the school at the time, but the anguish that they reflect from parents here in Uvalde is confirmed by reporting from several news outlets today. The New York Times spoke to Desiree Garza, whose niece, Amerijo Garza, was killed. She told the Times that, quote, when her brother Angel, who's Ameri's stepfather, learned from a fleeing child that a girl named Amerie had been shot inside, he ran to try and reach his daughter, but he was handcuffed by a local police officer. Another man told the Times, we were wondering, what the heck is going on? Are they going in? The dads were saying, give me the vest. I'll go in there. Police would say, get back, active shooter. They were putting up caution tape and people were cutting the tape. And perhaps the most jaw-dropping account came from Angeli Rose Gomez, a parent of second and third graders here at Robb Elementary. The Wall Street Journal reports, quote, Ms. Gomez said she was one of numerous parents waiting outside the school who began encouraging, first politely, and then with more urgency, police and other law enforcement to enter the school sooner. After a few minutes, she said U.S. Marshals put her in handcuffs, telling her she was being arrested for intervening in an active investigation. Ms. Gomez says she convinced local Uvalde police officers whom she knew to persuade the marshals to set her free. She said she saw a father tackled and thrown to the ground by police and a third pepper sprayed, end quote. The Texas Department of Public Safety official was asked about some of these reports this afternoon at the press conference. He would only say those reports have not yet been verified. And look, the point in raising all these questions about the law enforcement response is certainly not to pick on officers who may well have been very unbelievably stressful and highly threatening situation. But law enforcement, more and more law enforcement is pretty much the only response to school shootings that have been proposed or allowed by the Republican officials who run the state of Texas. After the Santa Fe High School shooting in Texas in 2018, the state passed multiple bills to, quote unquote, harden schools. The Uvalde School District doubled its security budget. It created its own police force and threat assessment teams at each school. If that is the only answer that Texas has to the scourge of school shootings, not to prevent them, but to guard and respond to schools better when they happen, well, they've got to show that plan works. And tonight, the people of Uvalde have a lot of questions about how well it worked.